Is there any sign of those cohorts slowing down in their airline spend?
Hey, Dani. Yeah, it's been a strong year, and for 2024, and what we can see so far is that it's going to continue into 2025. It's been more of a mixed year by airline group, where you have a group that's making good profits and another group that's not, but that's more about internal factors than consumer demand. So the setup for 2025 from a demand perspective looks good.
I want to talk about those two groups, Savi, because on the downside, you have the airlines, as you point out, that have less of a premium offer and don't fly as many international routes. For those airlines, first of all, who are they? And what does recovery look like? Is it possible at this stage?
Yeah, it's a lot of it's a mixed group, but you have Southwest in there that's making a small profit this year. You have JetBlue and Spirit and Frontier also kind of making either a small profit or losing money, and so it's been a struggle. But what you've seen since the summer has been this group has really adjusted their capacity. The big difference between this group and the group that's making good money is as you pointed out, just having exposure to premium traffic and international, kind of the strong demand on the international market, but also the amount of capacity that they've added since 2019. And so this is a group that kind of kept taking aircraft during the pandemic. And so given the kind of the level of cost inflation that we've seen, that I think the supply for that group is too high relative to what needs to be passed through in terms of cost. So what you've seen since the summer is an adjustment on capacity growth. And that is making a pretty good setup here into 2025 and probably into 2026 for the group as kind of supply starts to balance back with demand.
Well, this I find so interesting, Savi, because it has really been a period of back and forth. You go through COVID, you go through shutdowns, you don't need the capacity. Then you go through revenge travel, and these airlines can't get enough and need more planes. And now, as you say, they're talking about getting back to equilibrium and maybe not needing all of that capacity. How close are we to equilibrium? You say the outlook is good, but how fragile are we at this moment that something could upset it yet again?
Yeah, I think the issue here is not demand. The issue here is how much costs have gone up. You have seen just mostly labor costs, but costs across the system, including maintenance and aircraft costs, and they've gone up and wiped out about 6 to 8 points of margin that was there in 2019. So it's not about demand. I think the desire to travel is there. It's the price point with which you want to travel. And so I think what we're seeing here is capacity getting right sized to that, to a higher level of fare that's needed to cover costs. And so I think we're getting there. And 2025 promises to be kind of a margin expansion year, especially for those airlines that have struggled. And we probably still need another year into 2026 for many of these airlines to see that recovery back to 2019 margins.
Yeah, because what we've seen this year, Savi, is people still complaining about prices. I mean, we hear it all the time of what it costs to fly internationally. And then you shortly hear that followed with, well, things are so cheap in Europe. Well, things are so cheap in Japan. The yen is so weak. How much of 2025 travel, especially internationally, is just about the strength of the dollar?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what you've seen in 2024 as well. It's interesting. There is a kind of a tale of two stories here, too, where international supply has actually been much more constrained than domestic U.S. supply. And so the supply issue that you've seen in domestic markets and the margins you've seen in the domestic markets have not been played out in long-haul international. Long-haul international is actually very strong. One, because supply is constrained. You had a lot of wide-body aircraft that have been retired. And the Airbus and Boeing just haven't been able to keep up with the demand to replace the fleets that have been retired. On top of that, U.S. point of sale particularly has been very strong. I think part of that is kind of a post-pandemic desire to travel, but also the very strong U.S. dollar. And with the strengthening that we've seen recently, I think that's going to continue here into 2025 and it's a pretty decent setup for airlines, maybe not necessarily for passenger wallets.
Fair enough. And not us forget what some of that strength is coming from. It's a new administration. So I wonder if you have two things on the side of the airlines, both the strong dollar and M&A's return. Savi, how likely is that? After we saw many attempts, many runs at it get shut down by regulators, Where in this industry, what airlines could you potentially see mergers that benefit them? And again, with a more friendly administration?
Yeah, you're exactly right, Dani. You did see 2 or 3 opportunities get dismissed. Alaska Hawaiian did go through under the current administration. I think, especially given how smaller airlines are struggling, I think we'll see a much more receptiveness to see kind of mergers among, the ULCC group, like a Frontier Spirit, or some of the kind of the more private airlines that you see out there. So see opportunity for that in this kind of next administration, which also, puts up a pretty good setup. The other thing I would say with kind of the incoming administration is there seems to be a little bit of kind of regulatory overreach in the current administration as from an airline industry perspective, and we expect to see less of that going forward. And some of the items that are being challenged in courts today, I think will probably come in the favor of airlines as well.
Hey, Savi, before I let you go, we have to talk about some of the drama, or maybe attempted drama, lack of drama over the past few days. You had American Air very, very briefly ground some flights, which again did not last long, but still maybe ruined a couple people's holiday travel. You also had Japan Air suffering a cyber attack. In 2025, how much of it is going to be about these airlines right-sizing some of their technology and their offerings?
Yeah, airlines have been doing a lot to invest in technology. It's almost a hamster wheel, although, because you are constantly trying to keep up. But there's a lot of investment going into technology, and also, a lot of airlines are moving to the cloud, which is a lot more stable than some of the kind of legacy systems. So I think we will, see a lot of improvement. You'll still see kind of tech issues, but I think airlines are getting better, and the technology is getting better about kind of reacting to it. And luckily, the American, tech outage was very, short-lived. A lot of people got delayed, hopefully did misconnect, but at least from a, cancellation point, it was very low. So they recovered very quickly.